In a post-debate focus group, an overwhelming majority said they thought that Vance won last night. Here's why.
He's very battle-tested, very ready, and you can just see that he went to Yale, and he's very intelligent, and he reassured a lot of people, I think.
Somebody else.
He was in strong control of the facts. He ran the show.
He remained steady during the whole performance, and I was very impressed with him being very sincere and authentic.
He humanized himself and actually looked like a regular guy.
So the results out of the focus groups and polls are in from Tuesday night's VP debate, and they do not spell good news for Tim Walz and Kamala Harris. We will give you those details here in a second. But first, let me just say, folks, we are almost a month away from the election. So if you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below so you can stay up to date on all of the breaking news, as well as support our content. Trust me, your subscriptions go a long way in helping fight back against the censorship and ensuring that we can keep bringing you videos like this. So it's greatly appreciated if you would subscribe down below. And with that said, take a listen to some of the voter reactions that the mainstream media was forced to talk about out of the VP debate on Tuesday night.
Before the debate started, 2 of the voters said that they were going to vote for Trump. 2 said they would vote for Harris. 2 said they were undecided. But by the end of it, those 2 undecided said they would vote for Trump.
But while Joe Biden won this state in 2020,
So you're voting for Donald Trump?
there are warning lights for Kamala Harris.
I feel like he aligns more with America and American values than she does.
Isaac Simpson explained those Trump values while I made some gains on a delicious potato biscuit and omelet.
I just know that once you start doing away with things like the Second Amendment and altering it to your own, what you think is sensible, then it's a problem, because then who's the arbiter of that?
By the way, that's CBS News talking, so that tells you a lot about how much the moderators the other night failed to shift public opinion in their favor. In fact, they arguably just screwed it up and dug Tim Walz an even deeper hole by trying to interrupt Vance about Springfield, Ohio, and getting fact-checked on their own network. But that said, CNN also ran some similar stories, and they revealed a pretty damning bombshell about Kamala Harris potentially being in trouble in Michigan, which is a state that she is currently narrowly leading, at least according to the polls.
This is a meeting of the Syrian Students Association at Wayne State in Detroit.
How many are hesitant, having a hard time voting for Harris because of these policies? That's just about everybody.
Trouble for Harris is also easy to find in majority Arab American Dearborn. Wabe Nuseba is Palestinian, a 26-year-old Wayne State student who voted for Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden.
I'm not voting for Kamala Harris, not in good conscience. I cannot vote for someone that uses my hard-earned tax dollars to kill my friends and families overseas.
I mean, wow, that is absolutely brutal. You are in a room here of a bunch of Arab and Muslim voters in Michigan, which, by the way, let's not forget, a big reason why Michigan is a swing state that slightly tilts a little more to the Democrat side is because largely of this Muslim population that usually is a reliable voting base for them. Every single person in that room is raising their hand saying they cannot really in good conscience, or they struggle with being able to vote for Kamala Harris because of the Israel-Palestine issue. And Tim Walz on Tuesday night didn't really give a great answer on that either, at least in their eyes. So, you know, very interesting to see. It's really something worth keeping an eye on. I've been talking about this a long time, even back when Joe Biden was the candidate. Let's not forget 100,000 plus voters in the Michigan Democrat primary voted uncommitted as a protest against Biden. 100,000 is a lot of people. I mean, that is a margin that can easily shift a swing state. And if that many people are upset, forget voting for Trump. I'm sure a small majority of them might. But really, the bigger picture here is that if you see a severe drop-off or lack of enthusiasm among the Arab population in Michigan, the playing field that once slightly favors Democrats in that state, now totally shifts in Donald Trump's direction. Combine that with the fact that his support among union workers is at an all-time high, and you are not looking at a good electoral situation in the Rust Belt. And the focus groups and interviews with the voters following that VP debate are only confirming a trend we've been talking about on this channel for a very long time. But the funny thing about these focus groups is, the whole point is you're supposed to interview both sides, see what voters leaning in both directions had to say. But CNN struggled so hard to find a true, quote, undecided voter that would favor Tim Walz and say that he won the VP debate, that this is who they put up here. Take a listen.
All 7 of you came in undecided. One of you said they've made up their mind. Ryan, who are you going to vote for, and what kind of solidified that opinion?
Well, I'm going to be voting for Kamala Harris. One of the stark sort of aspects of that debate that really stuck with me was when they were talking about January 6th and how Mike Pence certified the election, and they were wondering if JD Vance would certify the election should Trump lose. And, JD Vance didn't really give us a definitive answer, and I'm disappointed in that fact. And
all 7 of you came in.
We're supposed to believe that guy is an undecided voter? Really? I was really on the fence. This is how I feel about Trump, threat to democracy, insurrection, January 6th. But I was really considering still voting for him until not him, but his vice president wouldn't be clear about a question related to that. Really? I mean, even further, just look at the guy. Everyone knows this is a Democrat, right? It's obviously he was going to vote for Kamala Harris before. Now he's going to vote for Kamala Harris after. But we're supposed to sit there and seriously believe that, that January 6th question really flipped the undecided voters. Let me just say this, okay? Common sense says I don't exactly think that the whole democracy thing is a big factor that's going to swing undecided voters either way. Okay, it is obviously bait for Democrats and their base, and they get so fired up about protecting our democracy. But I think most independent voters in this country, they're looking at issues, okay, and they're not looking at this abstract thing like which candidate better respects the American democracy or something like that. And in fairness, you could say that maybe abortion is one of those issues, okay? There may be people who maybe lean more fiscally conservative but socially liberal, that abortion being on the ballot, that might favor the Democrats. So it's not to say that there are not certain issues among independent voters that Democrats may have an electoral advantage on. Obviously they do. I'm just saying I don't exactly think this whole democracy thing is going to be something that swings those undecided. Now, that said, let's now finally get into what was perhaps the most notable focus group of the entire night, which was Frank Luntz's, that found an overwhelming majority. They did 14 people here. 12-2 said that JD Vance won the debate and also was great at communicating the MAGA agenda. Some even said better than Donald Trump himself. Well, let's take a listen.
It was a shockingly civil debate, if that's a thing. Both vice presidential candidates mostly sticking to differences in policy as they squared off over the issues. In a post-debate focus group, an overwhelming majority said they thought that Vance won last night. Here's why.
He's very battle-tested, very ready, and you can just see that he went to Yale, and he's very intelligent, and he reassured a lot of people, I think.
Somebody else.
It was in strong control of the facts. He ran the show.
He remained steady during the whole performance, and I was very impressed with him being very sincere and authentic.
He humanized himself and actually looked like a regular guy.
Joining us now, pollster and communications strategist Frank Luntz. Those were people that you had polled and were talking to. And
by the way, let me just point out here, okay? Pennsylvania, I mean, obviously they're doing the swing states, but this is a voter in Nevada, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, right? So, worth noting, in my opinion. Now take a listen as the pollster here, Frank Luntz, who is not really the biggest Trump guy, I will say, but, in fairness, actually says that it was borderline historic how much the voters in his focus group and polls favored JD Vance in this debate.
Strategy that they've been using up to now. I have to tell you, only twice in my career have I had such an overwhelming movement towards one candidate. That's how significant yesterday was. Not that they were critical about Governor Walz, but they were so shocked at how emotive Senator Vance was.
Right. And because he was coming from this place of being very unpopular when it comes to his personality and the things that he's said. So that's an interesting twist. What about Walz? What did you hear from the panel on how Walz did and what they thought of his comments and his policies?
Now, he got better as the debate went on. They thought that his first 30 minutes that he was stumbling, that he struggled, as I am speaking to you right now. And they felt that he wasn't really as engaged, and he was much more defensive. His best moment of the night was in challenging Senator Vance on what happened in the events of January 6th, and most specifically, whether or not Trump won or lost the 2020 election.
Perhaps. I mean, I'm willing to accept that is true because Tim Walz objectively did a lot better in the second half of the debate because the first half he was terrible. But you know what that excuse reminds me a lot of? It's Joe Biden on June 27th in that CNN debate. Now, in fairness, Biden was pretty unintelligible basically the entire time, but especially in the first half, right? And look, ultimately, people remember the one-liners, and they usually remember how something maybe started and ended, okay? And in closing statements, okay, fine, Tim Walz was whatever, but the real difference, the real kind of differentiating part between them was especially in that first half of the debate, how on the key issues that really, I'm making the case on intuition, but I think it's reasonable that it's actually going to be the issues, not this whole democracy talking point, but the issues that are going to swing the independent voters. And what was talked about early on in that debate, economy, immigration, abortion, climate change even, which is okay, whatever. But yeah, climate change, right? Those were the things discussed. JD Vance destroyed Tim Walz. Tim Walz was totally all over the place on those issues. And then at the end, what was talked about? You know, kind of like a boring segment about childcare, whereas, you know, people were kind of just talking back and forth. And of course, that iconic January 6th thing that, again, I'm arguing here, I don't think really changes that many people's minds. But that said, ladies and gentlemen, the verdict here is this, okay? JD Vance destroyed Tim Walz in the debate. We've been saying it. Even CNN panelists were saying it. You could tell by MSNBC the way they were so angry. They think so too. But now the voters who are going to decide this election are also saying they thought Vance was the winner of that debate. So with that said, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. And until next time, God bless and peace.